everybody. Welcome to the Cisco Day. Cirroc Lofton, of course.
Hello.
Melissa Longo as well.
Hello.
And who better to kick off the Cisco Day than the legendary Ira Steven Behr, showrunner of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Thank you so much for joining us, Ira.
It's Captain Cisco Day. That's not an ordinary day. It's Captain Cisco Day. What is it we can say? Okay, let's go.
That's a nice melody.
Yeah, that's a great start.
Yeah.
Well, let's just get this thing started. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. It's always amazing to hear your thoughts and your memories on everything to do with Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Can you just get us started by telling us your memories of what type of actor Mr. Avery Brooks was? Was he somebody that, was there ever a moment that you had to stop and think, and is what I'm writing matching him as an actor? The mood, the action was, was there ever a time that you kind of had to think about whether it matched the actor?
Well, that's actually quite the complicated question, as people who know anything about the behind the scenes of the show know. I mean, I had a big, as they call it, come to Jesus moment when I saw Avery do the one-man show of Paul Robeson, which was probably season 2, I think. No, I think it might have been season 3. Might have been season 3. Mm-hmm. And that's when I went back to the writing staff and said, hey, this man can do a lot more than what we're giving him. And I said at the time, it's not him, it's us, because we did feel there was a bit of a disconnect at the beginning of the show between the actor and the character, and I've talked about this, and I know Rick has a different take on it, but I know myself and Pete Fields, who were the 2 staff people on the show at the time, the 2 writers on the show along with Michael, we were expecting a different actor to be cast. I know Rick says it was never meant to be younger, but for whatever reason, we thought he was going to be younger. We thought he was going to be a guy in his 30s, even if it was mid-30s. We knew he was going to have a kid, so that means he wasn't in his 20s. But we thought he was going to be a guy in his mid-30s, and Avery, whatever his age was, kind of read mid-40s, which is why we felt that the whole commander thing seemed wrong, whether or not there were captains on space stations in terms of whatever reality they were talking about. So there was just a slight disconnect. That's why a lot of things that had been set up didn't quite work. He didn't need Kaiopaka, right, to hold his ear and tell him, stuff. Sisko knows stuff. He doesn't need to be told stuff. Yes, I know he was going through something with the death of his wife, but he wasn't that. He just wasn't that character. That's not what Avery played. His gravitas was not about a man who was learning. And yet, in the show, he did learn a lot. He changed radically throughout the show. We helped him change, but not only did we find a pocket that I think Avery lived in better, but we also gave the character, a character the ability to grow, right? Because this is a guy who started out not wanting to be on the space station. Didn't want to command Deep Space Nine. had no feelings for the Bajoran people one way or the other, right? They were just another bunch of aliens with funny noses. He had no great feeling for them. He wasn't in love with his crew, right? With the exception of Dax. He didn't seem to be all that fond of the doctor. He didn't trust, Odo completely, because Odo had been there when the Cardassians were there. Kira was the angriest woman,
Yeah.
as we used to say. Ex-terrorist, and he, let's just say, he was not a big fan of the Ferengi.
Really?
But yet he grew through 7 seasons, the character, and he changed. What I like to think about Sisko is he learned, he changed, he grew. And so all you kids out there, be like Captain Sisko. Don't be afraid to learn, to change, to grow. Okay? It's a good frickin' lesson to learn from Deep Space Nine amidst all the darkness supposedly surrounding the show. Learn, change, grow.
Ira, I want to ask you, when I started on the show, one of the notes that I got was, we don't want your character to be like Wesley, and we want to go a different direction. My question is, what was the different direction that Sisko was going to go that Picard had not gone? Like, what was going to be that thing that was going to separate Sisko, or the differentiating factor?
Well, I mean, that could be answered a number of ways. For one thing, Picard, he was on a ship, and he went places. And even if he spent too much time those first couple of seasons negotiating, it was an adventure. Any way you slice it, fans were tuning in to an adventure. Sisko was a man who, at the beginning, wasn't going anywhere except to Bajor, down to Bajor in a frickin' runabout, or being beamed down. So he had to deal constantly with, there was no escape, right? There was no going away. It wasn't bye-bye, wave at the end of the episode, see ya, get us out of here, let's go.
Which we just saw in this last episode.
We just saw an episode like that where he's like, just get me as far away from this place.
I don't care. Just pick a destination, and I don't care. Take me out of here. So yes, you're right. He had
was going to be a totally different character from that. But I don't think you can underestimate the writers, meaning Pete, myself, and Michael, obviously. The fact that he was a dad was huge, huge. And though Cassidy at that time did not enter into our thoughts, at the beginning of all things, when we had so many balls in the air, just what we'd been given, or even the dad, Brock, the expanding family we didn't know about. But we knew we had a kid who was not Wesley. We knew we had a kid who was a kid, right? Not a bad kid, not a troublemaking kid, but still a kid, who's going to do kid things. And that commander, that dad, was going to have to deal with that kid. And how he dealt with that kid would show a side of that character that no one who had gone before him, meaning Kirk or Picard, ever really had to show or even experience. So that put us, we thought, in a tremendously viable place. we thought, silly us, that it put us ahead of the game.
Mm.
We didn't realize just how much the fact that we were on a station and it was a commander and all that stuff that the fans were just not going to rally around at first. So all I meet nowadays, the people said, I watched it since the beginning. I was there when Babe Ruth called his home run, point to the fans. I was there when Kirk Gibson hit that home run. It's like, okay, you're all our fans, every one of you. You were there from the beginning. Anyway, so that was I never, I never thought about, how do we differentiate this guy from that guy? I just thought it was all there, and from the jump, that this was going to be a different lead character of a Trek series.
I have a question.
Yeah, and you did kind of expand upon that. Let me just add this, because in that scene with Q, when Q says, you just punched me, Picard never punched me. And,
that's the big line.
And Sisko says, I'm not Picard. I think, that kind of highlights that, you're dealing with a different person. This is going to be something different.
Well,
personality-wise.
Absolutely. And obviously we did that on purpose. But you people are going to be watching every episode of TNG. So you'll tell me after 7 seasons how Picard grew. Of course, I know he's still drinking Earl Grey tea. He hasn't, it's still the comforts of home. So you'll tell me how Picard was different in season 7 than he was in season 1.
Sounds like Ira is saying that, but he already knows the answer. That's what it sounds like to
me. I really don't. Because I didn't watch, the show after, with the exception of 1 or 2 episodes in season 4. But I'd be interested to know, because obviously,
well, certainly when the dynamic of kids, Picard is not a kid-friendly captain, and he let that be known from the beginning of the shows. He always voiced his displeasure at Wesley being around, and he couldn't handle kids around. So that was kind of an obvious kind of difference from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Well, that's also why the audience never took to Wesley, if that's the case. Because if your lead character tells you that person has no agency, the audience is going to listen to the lead character and go, oh, shit, if he doesn't like him, I'm not going to like him. Unless there's a built-in change to that character. And Picard is, I don't think, maybe he does change his feelings towards Wesley, later on. But I think
as time goes on, they write it a little bit differently. But certainly in the beginning, there was like a real abrupt shortness and a vocalized discomfort about it.
Oh yeah.
But Melissa, you were going to ask a question. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at all. No, I was going to ask about a comment you just made about how fans or viewers thought of Deep Space Nine as dark, and it kind of made me think that you might not share that point of view. Do you think that Deep Space Nine is dark?
I would never. That would not have been the first thing that came to me. Again, this is something that Pete Fields and then Robert Wolf and I, we kept saying, compared to what?
Right.
It's still, we're in the future, and human beings are still recognizably human beings with the same cares and needs and abilities to express themselves. So that's freaking positive. There's still, hope. There's still this, there's still that. Was it more, nuanced? Hell yeah. Were there tragedies? Hell yeah. But is that dark? Well, yeah, life is a combination of dark and light. That you shouldn't have to explain to anyone who is alive, who is able to think for themselves. So I never, ever. I mean, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about it as being a novel for television. We talked about it being realistic. We talked about it, certainly being the show that was doing a deep dive into a lot of the accepted beliefs about what Star Trek and the future is. And, I think Robert Wolf said it in some interview that, we're not saying that, the future isn't better than today. All we're saying is you have to work goddamn hard to get there. And you got to be willing to work goddamn hard to keep it. And so I think we had stakes, the likes of which were not there in the shows that came before us. We had real stakes.
It seems like almost that less so much that Deep Space Nine is a dark show, but felt more like Deep Space Nine represented to me like a beacon of light in a dark place. People just doing good, sticking together, hanging on to what's important to them, like family and found family and friendship in a dark setting. So that, there's kind of a dichotomy there.
I think it's a dark show if you consider the Star Trek franchise, a children's show. If that's what you think it is, if you think it's a children's show, then
that's
yes.
Star Wars.
It's yes, but that's my feeling. If you think that it's a show that's basically geared towards children, then it's a dark show. If you think that Star Trek is for adults, then calling it dark is kind of ridiculous. Dark moments, sure. What show doesn't have dark moments?
Right.
So,
Ira, one of the special things about this date of May 22nd is that it's the day that Benjamin Sisko is acknowledged as the emissary to the Bajoran people. And really my question is, it's a rare occasion in which you see a Black person used in religious iconography. You don't see it. You don't see images of Black people in any of the major religions or any of the major religions in the world. Was there any pushback that you received by having made Sisko a prophet? Did you receive any pushback? And was there, like a conscious acknowledgement of this, making a Black man kind of a religious icon? I mean, that is a significant thing that I believe that you guys in the writing staff accomplished when you created this storyline.
Well, Mike created the storyline, Mike and Rick. So if they got pushback, they would have gotten it in the pilot. I never heard any of that. And certainly, as we've talked about, I believe in the past, we did get a note at the end of season 1. They wanted us to get rid of Bajoran politics altogether, So then we moved to Bajoran religion, and we never heard a peep out of them. I don't think so. The only time that Sisko's color came into it, that the fact that he was a person of color came into it, was, I think it was in season 2 when Avery came. I don't think it was to me at this point. I think it was still to Michael and to Rick. So obviously then, I was told about it, and was that he wanted his quarters to have a more African, more black theme to it, and he wanted to be able to dress in clothes reflecting that heritage when he wasn't in his captain's uniform. And I remember there being some talks about how do we do that without making it, so obvious to the audience, that suddenly there's been this change and suddenly there's African statuary or whatever, it's like, how do we do it without looking like someone told us, Sisko woke up one morning and looked around and said, I got to redo my goddamn quarters, man. That was the only thing, I remember thinking. It's like, okay, that's cool. That is fine. But really, I know, we live in a very divided age right now, and I don't have to tell you that, but we never got a peep out of, or that I ever heard, even after I was, the showrunner, anything about, bringing on the dad, bringing on Cassidy, bringing on scenes where you have five black people in a scene and no one else. Never anything like that. I mean, nothing, zilch. But, it was a sci-fi show. So maybe it did not count. It wasn't trying to do that in a contemporary setting. Maybe that would have been different. I don't know. But I have to say, that we could do, it seemed that we could do whatever we wanted, and to this day, it's easy to say now. I know I'm a broken record of things we could have done, should have done, maybe, but it's all bullshit because at the time we were doing the best we could, at given the circumstances. But I wish there was more Cassidy in the show, to tell you the truth. That I thought that was just a bang up character and a bang up relationship, and as I told Nana when she interviewed me about her book in Women in Star Trek, I thought Cassidy was like one of our biggest wins, in terms of that with Deep Space Nine. What a great character! What a strong, positive woman, deserving of a man, deserving to have a relationship with a man like Sisko. A great, great, great duo.
My question now, Ira, is this: out of the 5 characters that Avery Brooks played during the course of the show, and I'm going to give you the list of them. One is Sisko. 2 is Benny Russell. 3 is Gabriel Bell.
Nice.
4 is the villain that he played in the James Bond episode.
Very good.
Out of those different characters that he played, which one reminds you most of Avery Brooks, the person?
Jesus,
he stumped him.
No, not at all. It's just, look, there's, with the exception maybe, look, Gabriel Bell, we hardly knew. Who is Gabriel Bell? He was there to get killed. The only Gabriel Bell we know is Sisko as
right.
Gabriel. So right. I don't know how much we can talk about that. And the James Bond thing was just a hoot, It was yes. Just that whole episode,
It looked playful. It looked very playful in that. Yeah. He looked like he was having a lot of fun.
Yes. What? But to me, the character closest to Avery in so many ways is Benny Russell, without a doubt. In my mind. I'm not saying he would agree, because he certainly has the strength of Sisko, but Sisko was a very that character had certain parameters that, you know, you could color outside the lines, but he was still a Star Trek captain. And yes, I know in the pale moonlight, we burst that open allegedly. That's when I started to think people look at the show as it's a children's show, because the response to that episode was so extreme. And to me at the time, it was like just a good episode with a good problem. And they acted like, you know, that's when I really was worried about the franchise. It's like, man,
they acted like what? Like that was something that a Starfleet captain can't do. What he did.
Yeah, well, obviously but that's so. But it happens, you know, and they make it out like it was such an outlier episode. And I remember saying at the time, after that response started to come in, every episode should be like that. Every episode, even the comedic episodes should blow the audience's mind. If that's the case, you should constantly be challenging your audience. You know, you know, is this the show? I mean, you know, it had. If you're not doing the procedural, which you have to do the same thing every week, you know, you have to take that opportunity and run with it to the best of your ability, even when your lungs, you know, are gasping for air and your side is hurting and your knees are hurting. And it's like, okay, this is ridiculous. You know, enough is enough. No. It's a very rare time in television where you can do the amount of different episodes that we were able to do on Deep Space. And it should constantly be showing the audience and telling them, oh shit, look at this. Look at this. Look at what this show can handle. Look at what we're asking you to handle. And that they make it out like, you know, we crossed this line that you're never going to be crossed again. Who would ever allow? You know, it's like, please, man.
Well, you know, you may have opened the door for future iterations of Star Trek, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking there are quite a few darker episodes in Voyager in which Janeway did some things for the betterment of her crew. Scott Bakula as Archer in Enterprise did the same thing, where he did some things that were, you know, definitely shady for a Starfleet captain. So maybe some of the people may have scoffed at it, but you really opened the door and led the way for more realistic stories.
Yeah. But getting back to definitely Benny Russell, the wounded nature, the talent, that sense of righteousness and the mixture of righteousness and despair, you know, the hope and the ecstasy, the agony and the ecstasy is you know, that's the Avery that I believe is close to the true Avery Brooks. Sorry, Avery, but that's my take. So, and he was a brave man. He was just as brave as Captain Sisko, you know. And he was as sane as, you know, the world let him be, you know.
So we never really get to see, obviously, past, you know, the last episode, how the Bajoran people would have responded to Sisko making this ultimate sacrifice on their behalf in that climactic scene with Dukat. How do you feel the Bajoran people would have received that information, that is what transpired? How do you see them going forward? They already had this kind of reverence for Sisko. Do you think it would elevate that or change that or be the same?
I definitely think there may have been some naysayers, but definitely it would have elevated him without a doubt. I mean, he was the emissary. There is no doubt, unless you are, unless your agenda toward Bejor, even as a Bajoran, is different than uh, creating a sense of unity and belief in the culture. Um, unless you had a reason to try to blow that up, um, I would think that Sisko, did his duty as the emissary as much as he did his duty saving, the Alpha Quadrant from the Dominion. Um, you know, yeah, he was the real deal.
And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Sisko Day to celebrate all of those sacrifices
the Sisko
that
Day,
he made
the
for
real
us.
deal.
The real deal.
Yeah, that's how you wrote it, and that's how we receive it. Um, I definitely feel impacted by that storyline of the journey that Sisko goes through. Like you said, from kind of being, I was told one time by a friend of mine named Dan Loria, who played the dad on the Wonder Years.
Yeah.
And he recommended a book to me, which I still think is one of my favorite books of all time. And the book is called uh, The Adventures of the Reluctant Messiah.
Mm.
And it's about a reluctant Messiah. And it's a great book. It's set in, any kind of period. There's no real time period, but it's a very freeing book that kind of walks you through this view of being a reluctant Messiah. And I feel like when we watch Sisko's journey, here he is reluctant to accept the emissary role. Here he is saying, no, it's not me, you got it all wrong. And then he gets immersed in it with the prophets, wormhole prophets, and the entire experience. And I like how you said he didn't need Kai's to kind of hold his hand, because he's not a vulnerable kind of sensitive person. He's a commander. Well, he said, yeah, but not in this vulnerable way, not in this like weak way. He's sensitive in a strong way. So yeah, I feel like, when you take into account all of those things, um, you've created a character that is independent, and that doesn't need anybody's hand holding, but also means so much to so many people. And like I was talking about, the journey of being reluctant to finally embracing it. And I think that was where I was going with the original point. Starting out resisting, and then finally accepting and realizing that there is an actual truth, and finding your purpose as the emissary. I think that's one of the great things you did with the story.
My belief is that when Sisko comes back, forget about, is there going to be a Deep Space Nine? Is there going to be, blah, 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 all that crap. To me, the perfect ending for the story is Sisko moving down to Bejor with Cassidy and living on Bejor, not a Starfleet officer anymore. He is beyond that. And living a quiet, and Jake, maybe, I'm not sure, but maybe Jake there too, at least part of the time, a quiet life where he will be able to, certainly still have, I mean, he's still a freaking emissary, so they're going to still want, him to be a part of society, but I think in a very, very, very special place. Sisko has done the thing that he needed to do as the emissary. That anything beyond that is really a gift that he can either give them or not, you know. And to me, that would be the most beautiful end of the story. Is that, you know, this guy who came angry, bitter, lost his wife, yada yada. At the end, you know, takes off the the uniform that we know Avery did not like wearing, just in terms of discomfort, not a comfortable, you know, costume to wear, as he told me many times, um, and wearing, you know, a Bajoran African, you know, dashiki or something. I don't know, but that would be him. That would be what he earned, you know. And if occasionally you had to go make a speech or give a thumbs up or down to some program or something, sure, but that's what he deserves. And I know the fans want to think that he's going to go off and kick ass and do a million other things, but Sisko's story is over. You know, I mean, seriously, he saved. You just said it. I mean,
What more do you want from the guy?
what is that third act? Who needs a third act?
Yeah.
He's done it all, you know, and he really does deserve peace, you know, and enjoy life. You know, enjoy life, and you know that Avery has a great capacity for enjoyment, just as he had a great capacity for suffering. You know, so that's the beautiful ending in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Ira Behr's head, Sisko, Cassidy, and Jake are living in harmony. You know,
And a dot girl.
Thank you.
I have another question. Since this is the Sisko Day, how has the Sisko changed you or influenced your life during and since Deep Space?
I don't know if Sisko changed my life, though certainly writing Sisko, writing the show, changed my life in ways that are multiple and deep, and you know, the whole simplistic you have to fight for the right to party kind of thing, and try to defend and fail, don't be afraid of failure, and overreaching at times, and you know, never settle. I mean, all of that was a big part of what I learned from the show. What was the rest of that question?
Yeah, well, I was just wondering if it changed you writing for Sisko and writing for everyone.
Well, so that certainly changed the way, not always for the better, but it you know, it taught me not to be afraid to stand your ground and push and push and push, and sometimes you get your ass handed to you, and sometimes yeah, and sometimes, you know, you have to face rough times, and not have to worry about being liked, or you know, or even if the show is going to succeed. But if the show doesn't succeed, you know, you have to know that you fought your best to make it that way. But the thing that other changed me was, and you know, I've said this before, I mean, the contemplation of Avery Brooks. Forget Sisko, but from the time the show ended to this day, you know, I mean, Cirroc knows this. I'm friends with a lot of actors, you know, on the show, certainly, who I consider friends. And like Cirroc, but a lot of people. Nana, Arm, Jeff, Kate. I mean, it goes on, and I mean, who are my friends? My friends. And same thing with other shows where I have friends from other shows who were actors on it. But no one I've met, actor, director, writer, executive, has given me more pause for thought than Avery Brooks, and I think about the mystery of Avery all the time, or a lot of the time. I keep coming back to it as a character, as a man, in his circumstances, as I understand it, as a Black man in America in the second half of the 20th century, and in whatever this is we're living through now. And it's opened me up. Again, this is Avery, not Sisko, and it's opened me up to don't ever listen. Always make your own judgment about people. Don't hear what other people say about people, because a lot of times you're going to find out it's not true. Make your own judgments on people. And even with someone like Avery, who's complicated enough that, like Quicksilver, you can't quite grasp it, can't quite get a full, sense of who he really is under all the layers and all the intelligence and all the pain that I keep talking about that I sense with Avery. And so it's changed me how I think about other people and people that I meet, and people not being, don't be so quick to judge. Yes, the idea that your first instinct is often right. Sure, that's a truism. I get it. That has some validity, but Avery was a growing experience for me. It gave me a lot of growth in a lot of different ways, just being around him, good, bad, close, distant, whatever. He had an impact, and in this life we lead, having an impact on people is not a bad thing,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
For the better. And I think it was for the better.
Ira, that's amazing and beautiful. We're just about out of time here.
Well, so am I.
But we really want to thank you for joining us. This has been so cool. We totally value your time and truly appreciate you and your thoughts and your words. You've always been so great to us, personally, and to the fans more generally. So thank you for everything that you've done.
I'm going to take a shower, guys.
Perfect. All right.
And,
Ira, when we celebrate Sisko Day, we're celebrating not only Avery Brooks and his portrayal as Captain Sisko, but we're celebrating you and Michael Piller and Rick Berman, who helped bring us Sisko and who helped write Sisko's story. So I want to thank you for that too as well. You're just as much part of Sisko as anyone else. So we love you for that. Thank you for always being a friend to the show and just giving us your honest opinion on things. So thank you for celebrating the first Sisko Day with us.
Yes. All right, everybody at home, please be sure to follow Ira Steven Behr online, because He's out of here already.
I beamed right
If your
on out.
favorite punk band is Fear, you can follow Ira Steven Behr. It's his favorite too. All right, everybody. We will see you soon. Watch the next video for myself, Cirroc. Melissa, thank you for joining us on the Cisco Day. For every video, click the video in the link below, and it'll take you to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Just look in the description box below. Click on the next video, and it'll take you through the whole day. We'll see you soon. Or you could just go online to thesiscoday.com and check out the schedule there and click on whatever video you want. Thanks very much. Stick around. Enjoy the Cisco Day.